The following is a presentation of KSL Sports. First and 12. A total roundup of BYU and Utah football and the expanded Big 12 Conference. Brought to you by Macy's Grocery Stores. Your hosts are Mitch Harper and Alex Kirry on KSL News Radio and the KSL Sports Zone.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome on in to First and 12. Mitch Harper, Alex Kirry with you. I'm still riding an adrenaline high after last night. Epic stuff in the BYU-Utah rivalry. Say hello, Big 12, to your number one rivalry. That thing came in hot, and it was an epic finish like it always is with BYU and Utah.
Well, I don't know, Mitch, because I thought that Utah would put in the papers to leave the league after last night's matchup, after Mark Harlan's comments, and we'll get to those, of course. Our program is always brought to you by the folks at Macy's, the freshest fruits and vegetables from your local farms and your favorite local brands. Macy's Happy Shopping, bringing you First and 12 every Sunday right here on the KSL Sports Zone and on KSL News Radio. Mitch Harper, Alex Kirry, thanks for being with us on the program, everybody. Yes, it was a crazy night, and you know what? We thought that we've seen it all in this rivalry, and it's hard sometimes for me, who's I've covered the first game that I covered with a media credential was 2006. Beck to Harleen, right? You see a game like that and you go, wow, I don't know how we're going to top that. Year after year, and even before that, and even after that, and then even last night there was an absolute another weird chapter, and I don't care who you are. Whenever I was asked this week, but there's no way Utah could win this game, right? I said, have you been around this rivalry before? And we were proven right. This thing was going to be close, and it absolutely was. And it came down to a final kick, and there was part of me that said this thing's going to hit the upright. There was part of me that says Brandon Burton's going to come out of the crowd and block this thing. There have been millions of ways that this thing has gone down, but we've never seen it end like this, Mitch, and I'm blown away how that thing ended up for this one, but it's another crazy one for us as media members. I love this stuff. Are you kidding?
It's epic stuff. BYU takes down the Utes 22-21. Will Ferrin boots a field goal to win it and give BYU the victory. The Cougs stay 9-0. Utah now falls to 4-5, and we'll unpack every angle of this game today. But let's start on the Utah side as we get ready to talk this game more in depth.
The Utah Utes post-game analysis.
All right, it's a tale of two halves. Really, what's crazy about this, Mitch, is that it was really a tale of a 21-point second quarter for the Utes. Brandon Rose feeling himself.
Looked really good.
And throws a couple of touchdown passes, one to Brant Keithy. Brant Keithy ran another one in. Mekhi Bernard gets himself a touchdown. 21 points by a Utah offense that was having a hard time in one quarter. On a Utah offense that was having a hard time get to 20 on the season. And in Big 12 play wasn't averaging, in just these 4 games that they had lost in a row, were averaging less than 13 points a game. We didn't know what was going to happen with this Utah offense, but they wanted a spark. They got it from Brandon Rose. He did look a little bit better. And then it wasn't, like I said, it wasn't just a tale of two halves. Utah was absolutely abysmal in the second half moving the football. They didn't score a point in the second half. They didn't even eclipse 100 yards.
59.
59 yards in the second half. See, it was an absolute, I guess you could say it was an adjustment. I think what really happened was that Brandon Rose, he wasn't that effective when he came in against Houston. Came right in, throws a pick. He actually kind of handed that thing over to Houston at the end of that game. I don't know if it was the right – I mean, look, hindsight's 20/20, but Isaac Wilson, they showed him on the sideline. We wondered who was going to get the start. I think at some point we started hearing rumblings it was going to be Brandon Rose, and it ended up being the guy. And I don't know. I mean, you see flashes there. You could see why maybe they thought it. But aside from the Damian Alford weird double pass pick and then the pick that he threw to Crew Wakely that was in the middle of the field, Brandon Rose was not necessarily – I mean, he was just not sharp at all in that second half, and this Utah offense did not go anywhere.
He started the game 8 of 10 and then finished 12 of 21, so that was 4 of 11 to close out for Brandon Rose passing the football. That's just kind of the story with Utah this season offensively. they're going to be up and down, and they're a few more ups than what we've grown accustomed to over the past month this season, but still they have some real issues, on that offense. But I thought defensively, Utah showed up and looked like the defense that we've grown accustomed to over the years under Kyle Whittingham. I thought they were pretty stout. 3 sacks in this game against BYU. They didn't have any sacks the last 2 games for Utah, but still they just couldn't get home when it mattered the most. And I think a lot of people are going to talk about that holding penalty on JoJo Phillips, the BYU wide receiver, that Utah gets called for the holding.
Was it Zemiah Vaughn who got called for the holding?
I believe so, yes. And that's going to be one that lives in rivalry lore.
Yeah.
But there were opportunities for Utah to slam the door shut.
And that was kind of the message of the players, and we'll get to those sounds a little bit later in the program. But that was something they said after the game too. It was like, look, I mean, we didn't want to be in that position to where a call could maybe get us in that weird spot. We thought that Jake Retzlaff was dead to rights on the half-yard line, that game was over. I know people who turned the game off last night, Mitch. I know people who did it and didn't know that was how this thing had ended until they started to get texts from friends or whatever. But on the night, Utah ends up with only 259 yards of total offense, 112 through the air, 147 on the ground. They had some effective running. Mekhi Bernard was kind of hit and miss there, but Brant Kuithe out for the season. That's a massive blow to this team. Aside from the victory being snatched from you at the end, or at least according to what the fans felt like was the case on that holding call, I don't know how Utah recovers from the emotional damage that a situation like that, and then Brant Kuithe being out for the year, you still not knowing who your quarterback is. I don't think that you're going into next week thinking that Brandon Rose for sure has this thing wrapped up either. I don't know what it looks like for the future of these quarterbacks at Utah. So here's the other. You don't want to know a crazy stat. The defense had 9 batted down passes. 9 batted down passes at the line. They watched their film. They knew they had a plan. They said, look, we can get Jake Retzlaff. If you're not getting to him, they got 3 sacks, but if we're not getting right to him, time it well, because this kid does not throw it over the line he throws a flat ball, and he throws it hard. You can get a mid up there, and you can put that thing in the air, and we can pick one of those off, and they almost did it at the very beginning of the game, but man, it was wild. But Utah, I mean, the woes that they've had on offense they showed right back up. You had 3 scoreless quarters. You had a 21-point second quarter, and the rest of the way, and BYU scored in every quarter of the night. And it all ended up with 9 points from them in that fourth quarter that got them to 22-21. The first time in the Kalani era, I always hate that term, but the first time in the Kalani era that he's come back from an 8-point deficit going into the fourth quarter.
It was, quite the turnaround. And I thought the fact that BYU was within one possession, they were down 21-13, but it felt like in stretches they were down 30.
Right.
And when you look up the scoreboard and see to pull this thing off still, and then they get that touchdown, BYU does, and then ultimately the field goal. But, Utah had opportunities to slam the door shut. I thought Dorian Singer had a good game, 5 catches for 76 yards.
Yeah.
There were some positives. Mekhi Bernard was running hard, and early in the game he gets banged up, and you're thinking, that's going to go south for Utah.
I thought he wasn't coming back.
Yeah, he goes to the medical tent, and you're just thinking, injury list continues to grow for Utah. Jalen Glover, who had the Cold War comments, he only ends up with 12 yards on 4 carries. And, it was just a hit-miss night. It's what it's been for Utah this entire season. But I do believe, Alex, that going forward, this could be, this sinks the season, where this could now suddenly be Utah could just go into a tailspin because this was the moment to really get right, save it, and get back on track and really salvage this season. Now you're looking around and going, we're still left with so many questions rather than answers.
Let's take our first break. There's your breakdown of the Utah side of things. Next hour, we'll break down BYU on that side as well. BYU wins 22-21 in the rivalry game. We'll take a break here. When we come back, Kalani Sitake's comments from the podium at Rice Eccles Stadium last night. Stay right here, 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone and KSL News Radio.